Hello, and welcome to another episode of the America First Committee. I am your host, Dan Mattingly, and today we have a great show for you. We're going to be talking about the Cuban embargo, and that's why I brought a special guest on today. We have Lester Stone. He's from the Project for a New American Century, and in a short minute he's going to be able to debate with me about whether or not we should have the Cuban embargo continue on. But, in other news, just wanting to let you know, we are still trying to get that House bill introduced and supported by our representatives. The one that would pull back on military aid to Egypt specifically. And with that, I just want to let you know that on our Twitter account, we're going to have a link to a form letter for you to look at. You can write your own letter based off that, and then we're going to go forward, because we need to get that done. And with no further ado, I'm going to introduce Lester Stone to you. As I said, Lester Stone is from the group Project for a New American Century, and he is here to debate the Cuban embargo with me. Welcome to the show, Lester.
Thank you for having me on the show today, Dan.
To jump straight to the topic, I think the move by the president to try and lift the embargo is the right choice for both sides in 2015.
I disagree strongly with this move. The president, and apparently you, are fine with appeasing dictatorship. That is not an American value, and we should not be condoning it.
Lester, allowing trade between our nations is not the same as supporting the Castro's dictatorship. Right now, they have a great propaganda tool that they can use against us to maintain their power. Who will they divert the people's economic frustrations onto when the U.S. embargo is gone? They will have to finally answer as to why communism is not providing the standard of living that they had promised it would.
Still, Dan, enabling dictators is a horrible policy, and our current policy aim is regime change for the Cuban people. If you trade with them, it will help maintain the communist control, just like in China.
Our policy might have been regime change 50 years ago, but that does not reflect the situation today. Are you saying that we should stop trading with China also?
It would be impractical not to trade with the second largest economy in the world, but we should note that democracy has not flourished in China since we liberalized trade with them.
But as the Chinese have grown richer, the powers that be have had to grow more tolerant of dealing with have grown more tolerant of their own people. We are not dealing with another rash of violence akin to the Cultural Revolution in that country. The simple fact is, the brutal party of Mao is not the same party at the helm today.
But Dan, we are talking about Cuba and ridding the Cubans of the tumor we know as the Castro brothers.
The same forces will be at work in both countries. Once people see a chance for a better life, they seek it out. Freedoms come from that drive.
The situation today in Cuba is one of a weakened dictatorship, one that controls access to global media, especially through the internet. Loosening the embargo on our side is not going to give dissidents in Cuba the ability to network better. It will only serve to line the pockets of the ruling elite.
I feel you don't see how the embargo is beneficial to those in power. A shortage of anything on the island is explained away as the doing of the evil Americans. I would guess both of us agree that their economic failures stem from a planned economy, right?
Yes.
So if the economy doesn't work because of that, why would you still advocate an embargo today? Originally, it was to help contain communism, but that threat is non-existent today.
Because appeasing dictatorship is not how you show their folly. We need to stand up to such brutes.
With the disappearance of the Soviet Union, the embargo should have achieved all of its stated goals. It has not, and rethinking our strategy is necessary.
I am glad you brought up the Soviet Union and hinted at how they heavily subsidized the Cuban economy so it could survive our embargo. We are in the U.S. missed a great opportunity under the Clinton presidency to take Castro out. He had just lost his big benefactor in the Soviets, and we could have carried out our stated goal of regime change. Freeing the Cuban people would have been an easy military operation with a few well-placed rockets. That is a misapplication of our military, Lester, and you know it. Are you a little gun-shy, Dan? No, I am more than a little gun-wise on such matters, Lester. I know that democracy would flourish amongst the Cuban people, as it has been the case in America. They would be as supportive in Cuba if only the appeasers like you did not allow dictators to hold them back. When your fantasy military invasion was over, who would clean up the inevitable mess? U.S. taxpayers? I know that I apologize for that. Let me just say why you think you're so smart on this issue. There will not be a mess. When the technical help from the Cuban Americans, the island would quickly transition over to a fuller realization of their economic fortune. I don't think you can account for all the variables, and your move would make us responsible for repairing that nation. You expect the Cuban Americans to travel south, but a real possibility would be a mass migration northwards. Would you have been willing to create chaos in Cuba and accept all the outcomes? Just like Clinton, you are comfortable allowing people to live in chains, while one simple action would have freed them all. The CIA has for years been trying to kill Fidel. Let's be honest about that. We have numerous documented accounts of that. Installing democracy will not be as effective as letting it grow organically in that country, though. If we kill Castro, there will be consequences domestically within that country to our act. We have to let it grow naturally. I want to see the Cuban people experience freedom sooner rather than later, Dan. Tolerating tolerance is not a great way to get rid of them. But Lester, you have to realize that we can't just go around blowing up everything. With Cuba, we have a great opportunity to get rid of the embargo, to open up trade, and so that we can have a free flow of ideas and of goods between our people. Are you telling me, you had brought up earlier, that if we drop the embargo, we're not going to have internet freedom in that country? But are you telling me that tourists that go to that country would not talk to even their maids and let them know what happens, which is the normal order of things outside of that country? That is just foolish and weird, that you would think that people would just show up there, drop their money, and walk away. There's going to be cross-cultural mixing, and that's going to help out the Cuban people. They're going to see that the rest of the world and the evil Americans are not that evil, that we are just being held back, and that we are natural friends. Dropping the embargo allows that to occur. Dan, we're just going to have to disagree on this topic because obviously you are just all right with allowing despots to rule half the world. Lester, despots have always ruled the world. America is a unique city upon a hill, and we should acknowledge that. And we are acknowledging that by leading by example. If we show Cuba that we have a good, healthy democracy here, they will follow as long as they know that we exist, and as long as they are not being told that we are the enemy, the ultimate enemy of all of their dreams. Well, Dan, I guess you can make a point that way, but in all honesty, we need to just take out the bad guys. The bad guys are making us less safe in America. Well, I think you're segueing into other topics outside of the Cuban embargo, but just to hem it back, we just need to briefly bring up about how the Cuban embargo, I think we should drop it. And even though the president, who is not a member of my party, is in agreement with me, I think it's good. I think it shows a bipartisan approach to trying to tackle problems of the 21st century. Well, Dan, you can think that, but I am not going to agree with you. All right, Lester, well, I thank you for coming on the show. Let's do a little fist pump, showing that we are now current and relevant. But outside of that, I wish you all a great day. I hope you help and think about the Cuban embargo and how we're actually holding back the freedoms of the Cuban people. Dan, you can't have the last word be that ridiculous statement. You have to take that back. Oh, Lester. Oh, Lester.
America First Committee, P.O. Box 108, Auburn, New Hampshire 03032, or at my email account, americafirstcommittee@gmail.com, or the Twitter handle @USA First Committee. Thank you.